Lori Konkler. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I have a simple question that I have to ask every guest. Are
Okay.
you an entrepreneur?
I am a serial entrepreneur, in fact.
So thankfully for you, that is the only qualification for getting into the Plan to Prosper Small Business Academy. You have to be wacky enough to start a business and think you're gonna like live on it. So I'm glad to have you here. So tell me who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So, as you know, my name is Lori. I am as I said, serial entrepreneur. So I actually have several businesses, but my primary business is as a business success coach and agency owner with my company, the Xennial Traveler. And there's definitely a story behind that name, which we'll, I'm sure, get into at some
We
point here
will.
when it comes to travel. And I work with aspiring digital nomads and remote based entrepreneurs to help them leave their 9 to 5 lives in their rearview mirror, as I like to say, and leave the job and start living that life that they've been dreaming of.
So, because this is a podcast for real entrepreneurs, you can't just talk about if you got multiple businesses, we need to hear about all of them. So, what are the other lines of business that you do?
Okay, okay,
Because
okay,
some I've been invited on some things, but they only let you talk about a certain thing. No, these are real entrepreneurs. So,
okay,
tell me the
awesome.
other things you do. We'll come
Other
back to the
things.
travel thing, but I want to hear. I want to hear. I want to hear it all.
Okay, awesome. So, my other businesses currently are I do some consulting in the hospitality industry, specifically with IT departments in the hospitality industry. So, definitely not as exciting as other businesses that I necessarily have, but it allows me a lot of flexibility. And then I also have a destination wedding planning business based in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Um, Lived there for several years, kept my business there, so I get to travel back and forth to the islands to do weddings when I have them. I do the planning remotely. um, we're on a bit of a hiatus, but my husband also has a furniture design business, so that was one of the first businesses that we started, but he also builds the furniture, so we have to be a bit more stationary for that part to happen.
I think it's very interesting because I like entrepreneurs, and many of my listeners are new entrepreneurs because
Hmm.
people haven't fixed in their mind they're gonna create like the most best sock in the world and become a millionaire. And
Yeah.
I mean that could happen. That could happen. We're not
it
gonna be,
could it could
but I want people to know that we're real entrepreneurs and we do different things and different. So I like even before you start, you said currently. That means there are other iterations and there are lessons that
Yep,
come
yep,
with it.
yep, yep, yep,
So
exactly.
what if I had not asked you that? We wouldn't have known about this destination wedding thing. So that's
Exactly.
something that people need to know about. Okay.
Okay, okay, yep. I agree.
And if anyone's listening and uses her business, I have to be invited. Hello. That's it. That's the only thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's the rule. That is the rule
Even if
that
they don't know me,
you're gonna get, yep. Then you are gonna be a guest because
I will bring a gift.
that's the
I will bring a
referral fee,
gift.
right? An invite to their
Yes.
wedding.
I even pay my own way, but I just want to be invited. That's all.
Okay,
That's all I'm
fair enough.
asking. So I want to talk about let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey in general
Okay.
and how you got to the digital nomad. So wait a minute, I got some basic questions first.
Okay, okay.
Do you have a desk?
Do I have a desk? No. I have a table that I have made into a desk currently.
Okay. Second question. Where are you located? And I know I said I wasn't going to ask you. I just have to know. I just have to know.
Well, right now I am in Arizona in the US. Next week I will be in Florida. And then next month we're going to be traveling, doing a bit of a road trip up through the US, back up to the Midwest to visit family for the summer. And in the fall, we're not sure where we're going yet.
And through those movements, you're doing the same business.
Hmm.
Like you're
Yep.
still handling clients. So if I were your client, I would know that you had changed locations.
Not necessarily, although depending on where I am, like next week when I'm in Florida and I am, at a beachfront location, the waves in the background do give away my location because in Arizona, I definitely there is no waves, but But aside from that, no, I take my clients with me. I keep my appointments when I travel for the most part, unless I am going to be, somewhere where I don't have reception.
Understood. So tell me how you got up from the desk and how you made it to this digital nomadic lifestyle.
Okay, okay. So, well, how much time do we have? No, just kidding.
Plenty, plenty.
So I I started this journey about 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago, six and a half, I guess. But it started with a vacation, and my husband and I took like a month-long trip, which saved all of our at the time we were in our regular 9 to 5s, saved up all of my vacation time for like a year plus to take this vacation. And we went to New Zealand and we went to Fiji, and it was amazing. And then we came back to Wisconsin in February,
Oh,
which
cold.
is not a great place to be. I mean, maybe there's those winter lovers out there. I am not one of them.
And
Um,
I'm sure it's worse if you're coming from some tropical place directly back into the middle of a snowstorm.
exactly. Well, and Fiji, it was summer in Fiji because they're in the other hemisphere. So and it was also like an extreme heat wave there. Like it
Mm.
was unprecedented highs. So it was extremely warm. And then we came back to Wisconsin where it was literally like -20 below zero.
Oh gosh.
So,
I feel
you know,
sadness. I feel sadness coming over
yeah,
me just thinking about the train
it's
that.
like 100+ degree difference, that we came back to, and the realization that we used all of our vacation time and wasn't even going to be able to like take a long weekend or like schedule a doctor's appointment even because I had no time. And someone else was in control of my time, and that honestly like just made me really upset, and I was sick of feeling that way. It wasn't that I hated my job necessarily, but I hated feeling like I was tied to that desk and feeling like somebody else was in control of my life, when I got to spend time with my family, when I got to take vacations, when I got to go to the doctor. And I, really had that realization that something needs to change. At that point, I was in my late 30s, so it's like I have another 25 plus years in the working world potentially if I keep it up like this. And I don't want to wait till I'm 65 to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy it now.
So tell me about bringing up that conversation with your husband. Well, I want. So did he bring it up? Did you bring it up? Were you both thinking the same thing? How did that conversation like? How do you even? Did you?
Yeah.
I guess. Did you even know what it was afterwards? Like what the next it would be?
Not right away, no. He knew, I think, that it was kind of on my mind. I actually had purchased an ebook prior to our trip to read on the trip, and it was somebody that I had found when I was doing research on our trip or for our trip, and she was a digital nomad. And that was kind of the first time that like term had really popped into my head. I knew that I
Do you
wanted
remember the
something
book?
different. Um, I don't remember the name of it. No, I should. I
It,
should because it prompted a journey, right? I
Yeah,
should.
I think we gotta pay homage to that person. So we'll try to find it before we post the show notes, and we'll get it there.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So I read her ebook, and so he knew I was interested in this concept, but I don't think he had any idea it was really coming. But so I came back. We both had the realization like it's too freaking cold. We don't want to be here. But my husband, unlike me, is not as much of a travel lover. He likes being in the places, but he doesn't like the getting there experience. He
That's
doesn't
me.
like the planning. He doesn't like the travel. Get him there, and he's okay. Um, so when I brought up the idea of like we could be anywhere, like financially we're doing okay. We could leave our jobs. We could move somewhere else. He thought, okay, you're a little crazy, right? A little crazy. um,
That's why I wanted
and
to know
I,
about the conversation. This is juicy,
uh,
folks.
yeah, and it wasn't an easy conversation, and it took many, many versions of that conversation to get to a point where we agreed that this was something we could try. So at the time, I was, like, oh, we can be digital nomads, we can go anywhere. He's very much more comfortable. He's more comfortable with the idea of being settled. So we kind of found a happy medium at that point. And like, okay, I'd been watching a lot of like House Hunters International and Caribbean life, island life type shows on, like HGTV and travel show.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm like, well, what if we just picked some place to move, like somewhere nicer and warmer, and then we could just I could travel more, but we could kind of live. One of the hashtags, that we used to use was, I live where you vacation or something like that,
I
right?
like
So
that.
it's that idea of we could live in a vacation destination so we don't have to be moving around all the time, so he can be settled and I can get what I want. So that started to prompt it a little bit more, and I did all of the research and kind of just presented, okay, here are some options, which one of these would you be open to? And we agreed on the Virgin Islands because it was a US territory, so it was going to
Mhm.
be an easier adjustment. English, now it's Caribbean English, but English nonetheless was the primary
So which
language.
island?
We were on St. Croix
Okay.
in the US Virgin Islands, and I love it. I consider it home. Like it just feels like home every time we go there now. And we relocated. We gave 2 months notice to our jobs. I did finally convince him that it was going to be okay. And worst case scenario, we can always come back, right? Like you're not stuck on this
So
island
when you
forever.
went there, you rented or what was the
Yeah,
living situation?
we rented a house sight unseen. Actually, we rented beforehand. We actually decided to move there without ever going there, um, and found a place. The realtor that helped us with the rental went and like signed us up for like our with the power company and like did all of the work. So when we showed up, everything was ready for us. The only thing that we did not have was a car. I mean, we rented a car. We didn't own a car, but we had a place to live, and we went. We did everything. It was kind of insane looking back at it, but we took a mat. We took a leap of faith, and we knew we wanted something more. And I think he felt that even though he doesn't have that same love of travel that I do, he wanted something different too, and we wanted something to change. And
So did you already have a business on the
no,
side before you?
well, before we moved,
Yes.
um, yes and no. So I did have a business, but that business, we actually dissolved that business as part of that move. So I had a consulting business that I actually ran with a few friends, which, side note, don't recommend starting businesses with friends. If they become friends after you start the business together, that's one thing, but don't start business with friends. Can be very dicey. So
That's another
we
whole
decided
episode.
to,
We have to come.
oh
We
yeah.
come back. We want to hear the dirt on that. No, they'll know. They'll know who they are. No, don't do that. Okay.
Well, I would say some of them, if not most of them, I don't talk to anymore. So if that gives you any preview,
Because of the business.
uh,
Because
some
the
of them,
issues.
yes,
Okay.
some of them, yes. Like I
Got
said, there
you.
was a few of us involved, but ultimately decided, okay, we're gonna get rid of this business. We're gonna move to the Virgin Islands. I'm gonna start a wedding planning business. I did start the business once we decided to make the move. So before we actually moved is when I started it, from Wisconsin. And then my husband's business, we started probably like 2 months after we moved. Um, so within the span of like 3 months, and selling everything and moving to the Caribbean, we also started two businesses. So it was a bit of a whirlwind, you could say.
So how would you compare like the cost of living? Because I live in Metro Washington D.C., so I'm thinking that's why I'm like, how? Where did you live? Because here
Mm-hmm.
housing is very expensive. So did you find that it was more affordable? That groceries and those kind of things? Because even those of us who've traveled, they have only stayed like at a resort or something.
Right, right. So cost of living, well, in 2016 versus now is definitely different. But when we first moved there, cost of living rental wise, like we rented a 3 bedroom house, and I think we paid like $1,700. So I would say that's probably cheaper than DC, right?
Much, yeah, it is. It is. And some it
And
depends on where you
we
are.
had
Yeah.
like an acre, I think, about of
Oh
land. It was
no,
a fence,
that's definitely
a,
much cheaper.
a fenced yard, and we were like a quarter mile from the beach.
So like I keep seeing hearing the price like go up until like half a million here in DC.
Yeah, and that's more what it is now in St. Croix. So they had a big hurricane in, was that 2017, Hurricane Maria, which really did a lot of damage. And post hurricane, there was a lot of like linemen and FEMA and other workers that
Mm,
came on island. So there became a housing shortage. And then they opened up an oil refinery that had been previously closed. So there's been a shortage of housing. So it is now much more
okay.
expensive. That same house right now is probably $4,000.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you get there, you start the wedding business, the wedding planning business. So explain that part. Did you partner with a hotel or how did that work?
Nope. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, okay, I didn't necessarily do the business starting. I didn't start off right from the beginning, but I'll tell you what I did. So I did it on my own. I created a website. I did, I'm in marketing. I did some search engine optimization to make myself searchable. And I started a Facebook page, and that was pretty much it. And I'm just like, okay, you build it, they will come. It's not really that simple. It really, in theory, like I was discoverable, but I had no reviews. I had no rapport. I didn't have referrals in the industry. So it was a slow growth, for sure, with the wedding planning business. Um, my husband's business, on the other hand, that kind of took off. We approached the marketing on that a little differently, and that did very well right away.
That's awesome. So so were you afraid? How did you feel when it was starting slow? Like did you have moments of regret or fear? How did you feel during especially those early months? Because I wanted
Um,
because we heard the first conversation. I want to know what was the conversations during that
right.
time.
It was a bit terrifying, honestly. And so we first went down, I think it was like in May or something of that year. We went down after we had rented the house, like we were already signed up. We went down with, a few suitcases to start, like just to buy furniture, look for cars, do that kind of a thing. And we had to still come back, and get more stuff and get our dogs, and all of those things before we came back down and settled, like, permanently a couple of weeks later. And that first trip was like, it was so exciting, but at the same time it was like, holy crap, like what did we just do? Oh my gosh. Is this like, it felt surreal, honestly. It felt surreal. Like, this isn't just vacation, like this is our house, like this is where we live. um was there, I don't think, I would never say there was regret. There was never any regret, but there definitely was fear. And like that last day that I walked out of my 9 to 5 job, it was just like that, giving up that security. Because even when I had that other business, it was always like a side thing. I never had been without like a 9 to 5 since I graduated from college, which was many moons prior to that. So it is a terrifying experience, but at the same time, it was so freeing knowing that we were in control of our lives.
So how did you handle? I'm sure you have family and aunties and coworkers. What was their conversation to you, and how did you handle that?
Well, let's see. My mother-in-law started crying, when we told her. My mom and like my parents, I think, were just in shock, and they just had like, okay, Lori, sure. And then after the fact, it was like, okay, how are you going to do this? And like, and I'll be honest, I don't know if they'll ever listen to this episode, but if you are, sorry, mom and dad, I'm going to throw you under the bus. But I think there was a lot of doubt there. Like, okay, what are you doing? Because I'd been brought up to like, you to believe, you go to school, you get a good job, you work your whole life until you retire, you have the house and the kids and the cars and whatever. And like, that's just the life that you live. So the fact that I was doing something different, and my parents, they were very traditional that way. They had the house and they had the kids and, the American dream, I guess you could call it. So it was a big adjustment for our family and our friends. And at first it was kind of about them, like, how could you do this to us versus like, hey, I'm
Mhm.
glad that you're living your dream. And I have this conversation with people a lot, that are starting out and want to start this journey, and actually do a little bit of coaching in terms of like how to handle that, because it is really hard, and some people can't overcome that feeling of guilt of leaving their family and friends behind, because there is a lot of guilt, and if your family is anything like mine is, they're really good at laying that
Yes, I think most family, and I think it's a generational change because our
on.
parents, in most families in the U.S., our parents' generations have more and done more than the generations before. So they're like,
Hmm.
look at this empire. You can work yourself. And I do
Yeah.
understand I do understand that conversation, and just
Oh,
still just I think it was a good, I guess, sanity check for you, because you
hmm.
need somebody to kind of counter it to know if that desire is real.
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, and in their mind, like they're just doing what they think is best for you. They're just trying to look
Yes.
out for you and to help you. So it's not like there was anything malicious about anything that anyone was
And I think it
doing.
makes you think. It makes you answer some of those questions for yourself, not just for them. So did they
Yeah,
come to visit
absolutely.
though? Did they come to visit?
um, most of my family did come to visit. Yes, all except my one brother. Well, my only brother and his family, but his wife had a little bit of a fear of flying, so I'll attribute it to that. I'll give them
Understood.
a free pass. But yes, our parents, both came to visit us, and my sister and my niece actually had a destination wedding in the Virgin Islands that I planned for her. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to be able to
So
actually get my
let's
whole
just say the
family down
family got
there.
on board.
They did,
That,
they did.
that is awesome. So tell me about where you are now in your business and some of the other places you've traveled.
Yeah, so where I am now in my business, so as a business coach, I work with entrepreneurs all over the world, really. I have a lot in the US and Canada and the UK, just because of time zones, and I English is my main language, so I tend to work primarily with people from English speaking countries. But not only, I mean, I have literally people from Brazil, India, all over the world that I work with, and I absolutely adore that, and helping people on that journey, and to realize their dreams, and also to realize like that they're capable of achieving those things. And
Especially in this day and time. We have the technology to
right.
do it. Yes.
Exactly. And like it's literally never I started doing this before COVID, but it's like, yes, COVID has been a terrible, terrible thing, but in so many ways for so many people it has been freeing, because it has given them
Yes.
the opportunity to go out and live a different life than what they were brought up to believe was right for them. So said I love that part of it, and out of the coaching was born, I do group coaching as well as one-on-one coaching, and out of that was born the agency side of the business, where there was a need for additional services. These people were building a business, and they were doing the solopreneur thing and doing it all on their own, and it became like overwhelming, and they were trying to build their own websites, trying to do their own social media, trying to like manage their own schedules, do everything themselves. So I have a fantastic team behind me. We thought, okay, how can we take the skill set that we have and translate it into additional services? So, said Xennial Services side of the business was born, so that we now actually are able to offer social media strategy and copywriting and social media management, web design, email marketing, all sorts of branding, different services to service those clients, and it's primarily coaches and consultants and strategists that we work
So
with.
is it the goal? So the goal of most of the clients that come to you is to become a digital nomad.
Yeah, and not all of them. I changed the terminology early on in my business, because originally it was targeted really just at digital nomads, but it's not necessarily about the travel for a lot of people. It's about the idea of that complete freedom. So
Gotcha.
it's more just people who want to become remote based. So whether that's that you like, I've had clients that literally like, they don't necessarily care about the travel, but they have a family and they want to stay home with their kids, and they want that freedom to be home with their kids when they're young, and to work remotely, but they don't necessarily care about the travel. But I would say probably 75% of the people I work with want to become digital nomads or at least be able to travel and work while they travel.
So
Some
do
people
you
aren't willing to give up their home base and be 100% digital nomad.
understand? Because I'm a homebody. I'm a homebody. I like to paint walls red and do certain things. So I wonder, so if you were to get me out of my chair, like what would be the first thing to get me to say, okay, Yulika, you can do this? What would be the first thing? Like, I don't have an interest in it organically, but we had a conversation and you
Mhm.
feel like my business. So first of all, what type of business is the right model to be a Is it any business?
Well, no, because there's some businesses like obviously like if you want to run a restaurant, you're not going to be a digital nomad, right?
Mhm.
Now, however, I will say if you're a chef, you can still be a digital nomad if you do private chef gigs because I have a friend
Mm.
who's a private chef and she's able to travel and she does pop-up things, in different locations. So most businesses can be brought online, but not all. But I work with, like I said, consultants and coaches and strategists primarily. And consultants is a big umbrella, really, because I consider like even like your design, like graphic designers and web designers, I consider that really under that umbrella, like a marketing consultant or just general business consultant, even wedding planners, your event consultants. So they do fall into that as well. Coaches, I work primarily with business coaches, mindset coaches, um, some general life coaches as well. That's kind of the niche area there. And then said
So people
strategists
who
are
are
kind of a
already
consultants.
working via Zoom or they meet with their clients virtually. So they're already doing that. You're just teaching them that they could do it elsewhere. So let me ask you this:
Well, I teach them how to do it elsewhere.
how to do it elsewhere.
Yeah.
So one thing that's my pet peeve as a CPA and business coach is so you worked the job for many years, correct? For some reason,
Yeah. Yep.
so I'm always baffled when people walk away from a structured business, but they run their business in chaos. So can you talk about the importance of structure? Like, did you not pay attention? Did not like they're like all over the place, even in like
Uh-huh.
no, they don't even respond the same, just to the same situation. They do it every time. It's nothing like that. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of structure
Absolutely.
in business to be able to even go remote?
Right. Well, and I would say it's honestly even more important than it is, in some other businesses because you don't have structure in your life necessarily as a digital nomad is. So you have to be able to find that structure in your business so that it works no matter where you are. Because as much as you want to be on vacation and just doing vacation, that your business isn't going to continue running if you don't have structure and processes in place. There's definitely stages. There's stages of business where in the beginning you might be a little more scattered because it's just you. You're trying to do everything yourself. You don't know where to go, and as you said, if you're a business coach, I think the first place that you need to start is with a business coach. Even if it's not with one of us, like you need a coach to help you really gain that clarity and that foundation in your business. Um, and honestly, like I said, for me, when I first started, like first started way back, I didn't necessarily have that structure. And I came from, 20 years in, like director level roles in sales and marketing and operations. I was an director of operations. Like that's all you do is structure things in a director of
Yes.
operations role. But then I came out, I'm like, but it's my own thing. And how do I structure that and build a team? And I had teams in my career, and it was an adjustment, and that was part of why I failed at the beginning is because I did not have that in place. I did not have
Mm.
that foundation, um, but I knew that needed to change, and which is why, when I started actually building my team from day one, we started putting those processes in place, even if they needed to change. And that's the thing; things can change, but you need to have process, you need to have structure. So like for me, I get up every day. As much as I want to sometimes just work in my pajamas, I get dressed, I go to work. I have a schedule that I follow. Now, I have flexibility. So, like a few weeks ago when my in-laws came to visit, I took almost the whole week off. Next week I'm going to be in Florida with my family on a like family vacation, and I still have meetings, and I'm going to take the rest of the time off. But when I'm in like in a place, and I wouldn't say at home because I don't really have a home technically, but when I'm in a place for longer, I do have those structured days because that's you create habits, and just like you would in your 9 to 5, and you need to have that structure because if you don't, it's very easy to get distracted, especially as a digital nomad, especially if you're traveling to you want to go out and experience, you want to go to the beach, you want to go have drinks, you want to go see the sights, and you can absolutely do that, but you have to have a structure in place so that your work is getting done, so your clients are
And
being
you're
taken
keeping the
care of.
money coming in. So
Right,
how
because
do
you
you
want to
deal
keep
with
that life.
true? How do you deal with time zone differences? So if we are on different parts of that, how does that work?
Oh, that's a challenge. That's actually ironic. I just am onboarding a new executive assistant this week, and we had a meeting earlier today, and she's in Ethiopia. So, and I'm trying to explain to her like the calendar management because she's managing my calendar, and I'm in Arizona, so I'm well, and that makes it even more complicated because Arizona does not do daylight savings time. So I'm in Arizona time, which right now is the equivalent of Pacific time, but my calendar, it runs on Eastern time, and she's in Ethiopia trying to manage manage my schedule. So it is definitely a challenge, and I would recommend that you do what I do, and that is, like I said, I operate on Eastern time. My calendar is in Eastern time. My computer is
Okay.
set. The clock on my computer is set to Eastern time. Even though I'm not in Eastern time, I operate that way, and I learned that lesson the hard way. We came back to Arizona this winter, but we had been back here in the past. And when daylight savings time happened, and everybody else shifted, like nothing on my calendar moved because we
You're
didn't
not
change,
right.
right? And I had it set, and I'm just like, I don't know when my meetings are. And like, oh my God, this is just too confusing. So you have to pick a time zone, and that's your home time zone. That's the time zone that you think in, that you operate in, that you schedule meetings in, and that your computer is in, no matter where you are, so that you don't get disorganized. And that way, like, because I have clients all over the world, but we operate on the premise of Eastern time.
Wow. So I needed to know that because I'm really thinking about I'm really taking in what you say. So tell me about like banking. So if you're in another country,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm assuming that you keep the same bank, just
Mm-hmm.
explain that to me.
So I'll be honest, for me, I am a bit of a creature, even though I like love adventure and change, I'm also a bit of a creature of habit, and I've had the same bank for a long time. So I kept my bank account. I did not switch banks based on, the digital nomadism, at least at this point. Um, but so I bank with a credit union, that's local to Wisconsin. I've never experienced any like massive fees, aside from like, your ATM fees, but I really get those kind of anywhere. I have credit cards where I don't pay, transaction fee, like foreign transaction fees. And those are the credit cards that I use for most things. But to be honest, like most of what I do is online from a US based, business or whatever anyway. So it's not that big of a deal, and I'm a big fan of using credit cards to pay for your bills, with the understanding that you pay those off every month.
Correct. Correct.
FYI, people don't use them as a way to live; they need to be paid off. But that's how
But it
it helps me to.
stabilizes and makes sure that every vendor accepts your
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
payment. So and
Yeah.
it's yeah, I understand that. So I'm taking notes. Okay, Eastern Standard Time.
Mm-hmm.
Banking's gonna be because all of the tools you use are online. So you have subscriptions
Right. Now,
online
I mean, if you're
to
doing a
run
lot
your
of transactions where you are, Charles Schwab is kind of the bank that's recommended by digital nomads everywhere,
okay.
as the best one, the lowest fees. I have not made the switch because, like I said, I'm just partial to this credit union. Like their name is Summit Credit Union. They're based in Wisconsin, but I have used them
Hey,
everywhere that we've
Summit Credit
traveled.
Union.
Yeah. I have no affiliation with them other than just having accounts there, but they're really great to work with and have always just been so made it so easy for me. So
So,
I've
so,
stuck with
so,
them.
so we would need to research the transaction fees before we choose a place outside of the U.S.
Yeah,
So, is
exactly.
mhm,
I mean, and it depends again on your transactions that you're going to
I
have.
I
If you aren't
understand.
spending, if you're just going grocery shopping and, occasionally doing something, like, is it worth the inconvenience? And that's where it was to me. It's like, we don't spend a lot of money on things. So to me, it wasn't really worth the headache of switching a bank at this
So,
point, really.
have you had any issues with your clients paying you, or they always pay you in U.S. dollars, or that's never
Mm-hmm.
been an issue?
No, I get paid in US dollars. I use
Not coconuts. I'm just kidding.
mm-mm. No, no, not usually. I do get paid via credit card, ACH.
Okay.
Through my payment. I use FreshBooks for my accounting,
Yay.
and then
See,
Stripe.
that's one of the 10 commandments of the Plan to Prosper Small Business Academy. She has an accounting system. Go on.
Yes, yes. So I accept payments through there, and like I said, PayPal, credit cards, through Stripe or ACH payments. So
So we
it's the
really
same
could
wherever
do
people.
this. So I
Yeah,
really,
it's.
just from what you've told me, I could get up from my desk and run my business from a hotel, from
Mm-hmm.
someone's couch. I don't know how long they would let a friend would let me sit on their couch, but definitely just, oh, so let me ask you. So I run most of my business using my iPad.
Okay.
So what device do you use?
I have a laptop, which I don't even. It's a Lenovo. My husband just picked this one out for me, to be honest,
Okay.
because my other one was dying. Um,
Hmm.
but I definitely use a laptop. I'm on Zoom. You're going to be on Zoom a lot if you are,
Hmm.
working with clients. Now, if you have like an e-commerce business where you don't have to be on calls as much as I am, then an iPad might work okay. But if you have to meet with your clients and you're going to be on Zoom a lot, um, it's probably going to be easier to operate on a computer. But again,
I
that's your
agree, and
preference.
I have an old desktop too, and that's what I'm recording this
Mm-hmm.
on, and so but I only use it very limited. I mean, if I have to be at the desk because I don't like to be at the desk, I think that
Mm-hmm.
means I need to be a digital nomad
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I like laying down and eating things while I work. So most
Yep,
of the
yep.
stuff I do, and even some Zoom calls, I take out on the iPad. I have a stand, the case that it sits in. So I'm really interested in learning. So have you thought about, or do you have a book or instruction other than the coaching on how to become a digital nomad?
I've started writing a book on it, but I haven't actually finished that book. I have a book,
That's
but it's more about like creating your business and your personal brand. I've done webinars in the past on how to nail the nomad lifestyle, as I call it.
I like it. So I always ask those kind of questions because the entrepreneurial life is not fixed. So I like to always get a tidbit of what's happening. Like how else can you spread the love and knowledge of being a digital nomad? I think and I'm surprised because at the beginning of the conversation before we talked, I thought it was all about like being always in a tropical destination. But then
Hmm.
I understand that a lot of your clients, some of them, it's about being disconnected from a set office.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that was helpful for me to hear because hopefully no one's birthed grandkids yet. That's a hint in the atmosphere. But hopefully, that will come. Some two
Hmm.
young ladies who are very busy and traveling the world themselves will settle down and I'll have, some so I'm thinking about those kind of things. So it's helped me personally. So
Good.
tell the listeners how will we catch up with you and connect with you to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the best place to connect with me would be through my Facebook group. And it is called Build and Scale a Profitable Business, and then uh, colon work from anywhere. So
Okay.
that is one of the best places. Otherwise, my Instagram is my at Xennial Traveler. And that is just
And we'll
one
have all of
L,
that in the show
US
notes.
spaced. Yes. Okay, good.
And we'll have all of that in the show notes. So I'm so honored that you were here today. And I'm gonna make this is what I promise. If you come back, I will not do another show with you unless I'm in a remote location. How's that?
Got it. Got it. I love it. I
I
love
don't know where I'm gonna be, but it might just be vacation. But I want to report to you like what I've learned.
Good. And again, even if you're just driving up the coast, for a long weekend, just get out and experiment with it. And I would recommend doing that actually first before you just like sell your house and go on the road. Make sure you like doing it.
Exactly. And how would I take all of my sticky notes with me? I love my sticky notes.
Oh, I've
So
still got them. I've still got them. You just shove them in your laptop bag.
they do travel. Oh, good, good, good. So that is my personal commitment to you that I'm going to work from a different location, and I might just call you and do a Zoom call or
Okay,
something,
fair
and be like,
enough.
look where and we'll make it an episode. So thank you very much for being here. All of your information will be in the show notes, Lori, and thank you. You are now an honorary podcast guest of the Plan to Prosper Small Business Academy. We don't have
Well,
really
thank you.
formal ceremonies here, but that's the best
Okay.
we can do.
Well, thank you. This has been great.
Thank you very much.